Hey, welcome back to the Food Forest. Today we're just going to go around on a tour. I'll show you what stuff we're harvesting at this time of the season. We got some squash, some butternut squash. We've got celebration squash, acorn squash. We got potatoes. We've got beets. We've got lots of stuff that we're harvesting right now. So we'll go around, show you what we're doing. It's a really busy time of the season. So let's go on a walk and we'll talk about it. Probably the busiest time of the season for me is right now. Stick around. All right, so we'll start the tour same place as always, nice and early in the morning in the semi-perennial annual garden beds. And we've got all the raspberries finishing up their lives. We've got the grapes that are done. We've been harvesting garlic out of this area here where we've got all the lemon balm, bee balm. We've got creeping pumpkin in there a little bit. That we've pulled most of the pumpkins out. This is just more tea, different mints. I believe this is lemon balm. It's hard to tell. Maybe bee balm. It's hard to tell when the leaves are gone. But we just harvest some of these seeds and we can spread these around. Obviously being a little bit careful because mints like to kind of take over a spot. We've got our tomatoes that are just finishing up, just so everyone can kind of calibrate. We actually hit freezing last night, so we might be a little bit ahead of you in terms of cold and cool weather. We've got the kale. This is a little rotation that I've spoken about before, where we rotate in kale that had previously gone to seed, and then we spread a bunch of seed here, and then we're collecting seed from this part now to spread back over there. So we're gonna basically go through this little rotation, and this way we're harvesting kale all year long. So this kale here we've been harvesting for a couple months now, and it's just loving this cooler, colder weather. It's really thriving. The sorrel also is really thriving right now. So here's all the sorrel down in there. We've just been eating this all year long. This is a sorrel called Profusion, and it doesn't go to seed, so you can actually eat it even right in the summertime. Here's the pepper bed. We've got pepper lamb's quarter in here, and I know it might be a bit strange for people to think we're growing lamb's quarters in our annual garden beds, but they're a fantastic salad green, very, very healthy, tons and tons of protein. So we've been growing that in our peppers. Our peppers are pretty much all harvested. They obviously will not like the cool weather, so we'll come in here and clean this up and get a whole bunch of feed for the compost with all of that garden cleanup. What else do we have in here? This is pretty much just squash that's left in here. Some tomatoes that are kind of going to struggle over the next little while, that we'll maybe try to harvest and get some salsa verde out of some of these tomatoes that are still left in there. And then the kale in this bed is just popping right back up and loving life. And we've got squash down here. And this is what I do with my squash. And pull this one in. Actually, this one has had something get into it. So, you know, I'm not like other YouTubers. I will show you everything that happens. I will show you, this is what peppers look like when they get cold, when they get a pest that has gone inside. You can still eat this whole quadrant. There's still a lot of really good pepper there. It's still firm. So I'll actually bring this in and eat some of this. The rest would go to the chickens as free protein. They love the seeds of the peppers. So you can still eat a lot of this stuff. You don't have to waste it and throw it away. You do see that there are some peppers in there that are just finishing up, and honestly we just can't keep up with the amount of peppers that this bed put out. We've got a great fertility program here in terms of making biochar compost, and all of that is just extreme fertility. So over here we've got our carrots. They're just ending up. I never actually thinned these carrots this year because we just ran out of time. For those of you who watch the channel, you know that in the time where my carrots, I should have been thinning them out, my dad got sick and I was in the hospital with him for almost a month straight. So we just kind of missed that window. So we'll show you what happens. Maybe we'll just pull one out now. So first thing, we'll pull some of this lamb's quarters out. Get some of that seed in the bed. I know a lot of people might think this is nuts, but I love lamb's quarters, and I like it when my salad greens just volunteer and pop up. So we love to spread lamb's quarters everywhere. We've got some tomatoes in here. So still lots of food out here. I'll carry that around with me as we go, and we'll see if we can find some carrots. and pull them out. And this is what happens when you don't thin your carrots. You get tiny little carrots that are all competing with each other. That we've got smallish carrots. We can maybe eat some of this, but to be honest, you really do have to thin your carrots, and we didn't. So they're all fairly small. What I'll do is I'll leave these longer. Again, as plants take the energy from the greens and put them down into the roots, that's where the tuber will actually swell. That works for carrots, for potatoes, for parsnips and turnips, anything like that. So if you've got green leaves, then you should be waiting still. So that's the reason why I haven't pulled these out yet, is I'm waiting for them to go completely down. The process has started. So there's a chance that these will get a little bit bigger, but again, you got to really thin your carrots. You can't just leave them like that. It's just too many. So this bed here, we've got more squashes everywhere. This is where our beets were planted. You can see some beets in there still that we should pull out. And we've got more butternut squash down in the back, and probably some hanging over the edge. We've got some squash hanging over the edge there. And back here is our compost setup. So you can see we store all of our leaves back here. Been growing potatoes out of this compost. And here's a pile of horse manure that we have, and the hose for the sump pump for the artesian well back there. You can see my biochar kiln there, my barrel that I use for the biochar. And we've got some potatoes that we'll dig out of the horse manure. I just figured I'd do it for a fun thing, see if they grew, and they actually did pretty well. So we'll dig those out as soon as the leaves continue to get yellow. All right, so moving on, here's the bat guild here. The raspberries are just finishing up. My last video, maybe a couple weeks ago, these were still loaded up, and you can see that the animals have gotten to the rest of those. I haven't been picking very much of that. I've been busy getting the rest of the grapes out of here. And here's the chicken pen. We are gonna get some new chickens in the spring. So right now we'll take the winter off. We've got a English walnut here, Carpathian walnut, that is growing and doing really, really well on the back side of this chicken run. And we've got kiwi that are doing really well on the back side. This is all growing up into this trellis that we built over top of the coop. And that way all this food will fall down, roll off the roof, or fall straight into the pen. And the chickens will eat kiwi and raspberries, all just naturally without me having to get in there and do any work. The bees are pretty much put to bed for the winter time. That's pretty much all done. We've got Jerusalem artichokes here that are just pushing out tons of flowers. These are 12 to 15 feet tall right now. Just absolutely gigantic. We've been harvesting out of this middle area because we've got hazelnuts planted inside the Jerusalem artichokes, so that also frees up the hazelnuts as we dig there. I'm not trying to dig too close to the hazelnuts though, because we don't want to damage too many roots. Generally, I found that I planted in guilds, and I've been really avoiding planting any kind of root crop in and amongst my trees, because you just do so much damage to especially young trees. Older trees could handle it, but you do so much damage to the roots if you're digging up potatoes or anything like that. So that's why we did move to annual beds, mostly for the root crops or things that you have to do soil disturbance to get. That's a mulberry there, and we've got a cherry right next to it. And then we've got some persimmons in here right next to the pond. So that's the back of the pond. Turning around, here is the other side of this guild with a peach tree that's doing absolutely fantastic. We've got a black walnut reaching for the sky up in there that is really pushing up into the canopy and is exciting. And we've got grapes growing all up into it. And this guild here that started out as just hydrangeas, ornamental guild, we've added some food elements into that, and they've just absolutely thrived. So the pond is one of the reasons why I haven't had any videos up in about maybe 9 days or something like that. And it's because I've been balancing, kids hockey and harvesting, and my last video on collecting wild seed and propagating. This is a big season for when I plant most of my trees. I try to do like 10,000 to 100,000 trees by seed every single year out into the wild to help restore forests. I don't know how many take. I do have like little pockets of forest that I've created that I know are the trees that I've planted. So it is having an impact, and now is the best time of the season to do that. So I'm really busy with that stuff. But also, I've been filming a video on the pond, or I filmed a video on the pond early in the summertime, and Greg Whitstock, the pond guy, who's a fairly large YouTuber, and he owns the company Aquascape, and he tours around the world looking at the world's best ponds. So he found out about our place, he visited about a month ago, and I've been compiling that video. So that'll be released when his video gets released. I'll sync it up to be ready at the same time, so look forward to that. That'll be a really fun one. We basically talk about how we clean up the pond, and then we actually interview him. So the tour will be on his YouTube channel, which is really exciting because it's an opportunity to expose people to permaculture who might not even know what the word is, and expose people who care about, you know, landscaping and making really nice designs that work with nature, and showing them how they can maybe integrate food into those landscaping ideas, like an edible landscaping idea. So that's going to be really exciting. I really do hope that that resonates with that crowd, and maybe we create a whole bunch of permaculturists and people who care about the future of humanity. So that will be coming out somewhat soon, I hope. I think his videos are currently in Australia, and he was in Australia just before he came to our place. Okay, so let's head over to Old Man Walking Trail and the Pawpaw area. So here's our apple trees, just loaded up with apples, eating tons and tons of apples this time of year. We've also got some pumpkins grown into this little food forest here at the top. We've got pawpaw trees to our left. And walking down the pathway here towards the pond, everything's flopping over, so it's hard to walk through here and not bang the camera on everything. Now, as far as the pond goes, I forgot to mention this, I've started to semi-drain it. So I've turned off the wetland filter area, and the pond is now just basically in a closed loop recirc, where it draws down from the bottom of the deep end and pushes it back into the waterfall up top. And we've actually turned off the whole bottom area where it winds around a river, hits the bottom area, and then pumps back up into the wetland. So this lower loop is shut down and closed down, and I'll show you kind of that part of this pond. We'll just walk through here. So that's all down through this way. And I do like these meandering, tight pathways. They don't maybe film great, but they feel so nice walking down, and nice and tight. So this is normally wet. It's normally running water, and you can see that it's all dried up. It flows down here and down into this lower reservoir. So this is all dried out and stopped because the water flow stopped. We've got elderberry here. That little bit of elderberries on the top that the birds have been eating, and then this is Wildflower Hill, just finishing up for the season. Lots of goldenrod, which I'm really happy about. We spread that goldenrod around. We've got just wildflowers everywhere, herbs like oregano, thyme, rosemary, lovage, yarrow, just spread everywhere through here. We've got wood asters, we've got sorrel. Lots of wonderful plants down in here. And you can see I've been spreading seed everywhere, and some of it is just starting to come up now. So we've got lots of little seeds germinating as well. Things that will have sowed maybe last year will sometimes just pop up this year now, as these plants give up and finish up their life cycles. Then some of the next generation will come out. Now we're down in the Old Man Walking Trail, and we'll walk over and see the pawpaws. You can see the raspberries have done really well in here. We've got cherries and hazelnuts and elderberries planted. We've got lots of stuff focusing on habitat as well. So we've got these sumacs that fell that will kind of stomp down, but we'll try to leave as much as we can in a natural state. These fallen trees are really important habitat for creatures, and it's important to build up the the wood-based fungal networks, and that gets built not just by leaves and wood chips, but also by larger pieces of fallen wood and debris. So we do try to really mimic what happens in nature and let some of those processes happen in our food forests. Here's the back side of the pawpaws. You can see that we've got these baggies to protect them from deer. And we'll come by one day and some of these will just be hanging in the baggie, and then the baggie's attached to the branch, and then we know that the fruit has released. That way they stay off the ground, and also and if they fall to the ground, the deer will get them, but them being in the baggies will also prevent the deer from getting them while they're not quite super smelly. What was that? We've got a rabbit somewhere down in here that just scuttled around. So this is the old man walking trail as it winds back and forth. You can also see that I leave the grasses longer in here as habitat as well for snakes. Unfortunately, this time of year ticks, so I do have to check myself when I come down here and do full body sweeps for ticks. It's one of the unfortunate things of growing with nature is you get the elements of nature you don't want, and then the ones that you do as well. So we've got some asparagus growing in here doing really well. So that's nice. That was baby asparagus, so that thing is just huge for how old it is. Doing really well down in here. And we've got some more pawpaws up in there, hanging in the baggies. And old man walking trail continues to wind, stepping over Jerusalem artichokes now. These are the deer's favorite, so we put that down and around where we've got the pawpaws. You can see these branches are a little thin, so I've wrapped them so that 2 branches can support the one that's holding 3 fruit. And that's just to prevent any kind of cracking, because pawpaw is a pretty big fruit, so we've tried to kind of wrap the branches over each other to get a little bit extra support for these fairly large fruit. All right, so we'll just wind down through the rest of the old man walking trail here. We've got some corkscrew willows that we planted. I don't really show these that often, but these make really, really cool looking trees, and it's right down by the river here. So that way it can reach its roots way down and get access to some of that water and grow to be true monsters. So we're planting stuff like black walnut down here as well, and planting things so that even when I'm long gone, we've got elements in here that will take off, and if people don't come down here, at least nature will be able to really, really set root and anchor into this area. And this whole entire lower area has been converted into a nursery for things like chestnut. So I planted probably 400 chestnuts in here, tons of walnuts, and we're just going to see what happens. Kind of just like a little experiment. We'll let this progress through its ecological transition. This was where my annual gardens were, and it's a little bit out of the way. As you can tell, we're about 20 odd minutes into this video, and I'm just getting to it now as we come up this big hill here. And that's where my annual garden was, in the wild area where deer and rabbits can go nuts, and it worked. I actually used kale and clover to keep the rabbits away, Jerusalem artichokes to keep the deer away, and it worked pretty well. I'm not gonna lie, it actually did really, really well. However, it's annoying to get down there, and for annual crops, you really don't want to have to walk that far. So we decided to transition that into kind of like nursery beds for trees, which I can then transplant out into wild spaces, or I can transplant and sell, or what have you. So here's some asparagus. It's just finishing up its life, and we've got a giant European pear that's pushing 25 feet into the air. Hasn't put any fruit on, so we're really excited for that European pear to actually fruit sometime next year. We're just on the back side here. So this lower walking swale path down here, this actually goes down towards the pond. This one here also goes towards the pond, but the upper pond, and this is where the runoff from any kind of leachate through the food forest would collect into a little holding pond that I have there. Any rain on the compost area, this is another compost area we have, will get caught into this swale, and then be held, and that fertility is kept and caught and then feeds apple trees, bark nuts, hazelnuts in that lower swale. Popping back up here to the food forest. This is the main strip. This is the south side of the main strip. And we've got more pears on this Bosc pear. And I had liked Bartlett pears more, but I've been really enjoying the crispiness of the Bosc pears. And the probably my most favorite thing about them is how they store really well. So the Bartletts, you pick them and they have to get eaten right away. We've been pulling pretty much a bag of pears a week, like a large shopping bag, and taking them into work, giving them to our work colleagues as like a little treat, maybe exposing them to want to plant some fruit in their backyards. And we've been doing that, but when we pull those Bartletts off, we basically have to eat them within a day or two and they rot. The Bosc will last quite a bit longer. You can see this just meandering tour. There's just food everywhere, giant patches of asparagus. There's haskcaps and stuff in there that aren't really growing right now because they've dropped their leaves, so you can't see them very well. We've got figs in there. This is the back of the strawberry patch. And we've got peaches all around us. We've got sea buckthorn that we can continue to harvest. So these are just healthiest berries on the planet right here. This is like taking a little foraging and eating pure medicine. And they're just, even now, they're so wonderful tasting. Tart and sour, but the flavor, the citrus flavor is really nice. They are definitely tart and very sour, but I really enjoy them. Talk about a plant that is an acquired taste. I used to hate those things, but eat them because they're medicine. And now I actually look forward to eating them. You can see we've been doing lots of wood chips, just topping up areas where they're getting thinner. And we've got grapes, and this is the front guild here. So we try to plant things for the pollinators at the edges. So this is the road. This is someone else's property. So all along the front edge, this is all wildflowers. And we want the pollinators to see the border of our land and then want to come in further into our land. So this is where we plant tons and tons of wildflowers to try to bring the pollinators in, so that they say, hey, this is the entrance point to an absolute thrilling and wonderful home for us. So thanks for watching this tour. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. And look forward to the pond video with Greg Whitstock, the pond guy, coming out probably in the next month or so. See you, everyone.